And thank you for joining us today at Hawkeye's House of Horrors. And today I've got the fourth entry in the Howling series, Howling 4, The Original Nightmare. And this is the fourth film in the series, and I would say this is our second stinker. This is not a very good movie at all, and I would actually say it might be even worse than Howling 2. There wasn't now not everything with this film is absolutely horrible. There I'll go over a couple of things that do work or they're not brutal anyways, but I'm gonna give a review anywho for Howling 4 today. Now interestingly enough, I just did a review for the Evil Dead, sorry. I saw that at my 12th birthday, as well as this film. This one I saw on my 12th birthday as well. But this was the last movie of the night, and we were rocking and rolling by then and really having a good time making fun of this movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, and yeah, I was right. This isn't a good movie, but as I said, I'm definitely going to give a review for this film here. Now, it was directed by John Hough, as well as an uncredited Clive Turner. Um, now, Clive Turner, he also worked on Howling 5, the next one, as well as Howling New Moon Rising. Haven't seen that one yet. Um, but it's a real surprise because John Hough, he's done some good horror films through the years. For example, he did Twins of Evil. Haven't seen that one in a while, but that one was good. American Gothic. I like that one. Actually released the same year as this, 1988. And the favorite of his that I've seen is The Legend of Hell House. If I remember correctly, has Roddy McDowall. Um, but um, with a good catalog of horror films in his past, this one is certainly a dud of the films he did. Now, it's based on the novels of Gary Brandner, Howling 1, 2, and 3, but really, it's more based on, I believe, the first Howling. So, what they're doing here is they're doing a reset to the Howling franchise already, and we're only 7 years after the original. Um, I don't know why, but they're doing another kick at the can or the kick at the cat or kick at the wolf by um, going back to the original novel and doing another retry on that. And certainly, this is a more closer adaptation of that novel than Joe Dante's The Howling. Um, but that's what we have here. Um, Now, in doing that, does that mean we have a good film? No, not at all. Now, the story to the film is done by Turner, which is odd in my mind just because it's based on a novel. But the screenplay is done by Turner as well as Freddie Rowe, who also was a writer for Howling 5 as well, the next entry. Now, this one was not released to theaters at all. It was direct to video. It was released on video on July the 3rd, 1988. Now, from what I found, it had a budget of $2 million. Uh, but I soon wonder, like, not long into this film, where all that money went. Did it go to the effects of one scene, which I'll get to later? I'm not sure where all the money went of this budget because there's not a whole lot of different locations or locations that there are. It's not, I don't know. I don't know. I'll just say it again. I don't know where all that money went, but I don't work in film, so whatever. There you go. Now I'll get into the story of the film, and it's about our main character, Marie, played by Romy Windsor. And must say, of all the actors in this film, he certainly comes off the best by a country mile. Um, she's actually maybe the only one in the film I didn't have a problem with their acting. Um, uh, But yeah, other than Windsor, it is definitely amateur hour. Unfortunately, with the acting in this film, not a big fan of it in this film. But anywho, she is a writer, has a deadline for a new book. But the problem is she keeps seeing this nun that isn't there. It does, just off the top of my head, kind of reminds me of Nightmare on Elm Street 3, but we'll leave it at that. There's a lot of dream sequences going on in this as well, but no Freddy Krueger. Um, but anyways, her doctor, she sees about this problem. And certainly in this movie, in the first couple of acts, it is as much of a ghost story as it is a werewolf story, which is interesting, but maybe not in a good way. But her doctor suggests that she should get away from where she's at, to get set her mind at ease, and to get her mind into a better place, which certainly happened in the novel as well as Joe Dante's The Howling. That uh, same thing happened. So off she goes with her man Richard, played by Michael T. Weiss, who's actually maybe doing his best to look like a werewolf in this as well. And their dog Pierre. They end up in Drago, which, believe it or not, has werewolves. So there you have it. But you kind of have to wait over an hour to see one once you get there. Now, when um, looking up this movie to do my review, I found out that actually Huff and Turner did not get along whatsoever. In fact, Turner was supposed to be the original director of the film, but after financiers pulled out, veteran director Huff was brought in, and they felt better um, with certainly like the films I talked about with resume that he had, felt better with him directing this film than Turner. In the end, um, after Herner turned, let's try that again. After Huff turned in his version of the film, Herner then went out and shot some new stuff and edited it into the film, which leaves a very rocky film, in my opinion, as a viewer. Uh, Hough did not call this film one of his own, um, due to the changes that were made after he handed in his version. So he wasn't quite so happy with how this film turned out. And that is not the first time this happened in this series of films. Also happened in Howling too. Um, anyways, on to things about the film. Surprisingly, I got a lot of stuff here. I was afraid, I'm not, but yeah, I got some stuff here. The film has predictable and tired points to me of both plot and characters, such as the husband Richard and her coworker Tom, having obvious tension between them over Marie. Why? I think it's because you find out there in the film Tom wants to hide his sausage in Marie. You also have a hick sheriff played by Norman Anstey, none too well, I might add, who, along with at least one other character in the film, um, for some reason, they have like these Tennessee twang accents going on, but this is supposed to take place in California. Not saying that couldn't happen, but they may have moved, but it just doesn't work for me. Um, there are two store owners, played by Kate Edwards and Dennis Smith. He looks old enough to be her father. He's got to be, my guess is 25 years older than her, which is fine, but it also doesn't work for me. The film was actually shot in South Africa, but it's passing itself off as California, and you can tell it's South Africa. That doesn't work either. The audio for the actors, or the audio on the entire film, I think, was re recorded. Um, as well, and it comes off as rather clunky to me when watching the film. Certainly, when you can hear that the audio has been re-recorded for the actors. There's also some bad cuts in this film, but this may be where Turner added some material as well, and it wasn't edited the best or comes out the best as a viewer. One example I had of that was when Marie and Richard meet Eleanor, played by Lamia Derval. She is the Martha Quist character of the story, if you've seen the original. Um, when the two leave, it then just cuts to them standing at the door now, rather than just allowing the scene, the shot to happen for them to literally take 10 steps to the door. Um, it's just cut. To me, it comes across as kind of amateurish when this happens in the film. Um, and of course, with this scene, though, this leads to Richard having an affair with this lady who is a werewolf, if you couldn't guess. Um, Unfortunately, though, I feel disconnected from this as we do not feel any part of Richard's predicament, really, because his character is a bit of a wiener, a bit of a douchebag, not a character you could sympathize with, really, or there's not enough there for me. Because what you get out of him and this Eleanor character really is, I just say to myself, boy, he would really like to bang her when they first meet, and that's it. Um, yes, sure, she seduces him, but man, this was handled a million times better in Joe Dante's version, with Christopher Stone in this role doing a much better job. Um, First off, in the acting department, but also in showing his predicament and his commitment to his wife and the guilt that he feels. I didn't really get any of that from this or from that character in this film. Therefore, I call douchebag on Richard. He's not a character that I'm feeling any sympathy for or care. And for this to work better, I kind of need that. I feel. Now, after Marie finds her dog's head in the woods, this I thought was a funny scene and not meant to be funny. A werewolf is then chasing her. I think it's catching up to you, my dear, because you're running in slow motion and everything is not. That's a good reason why it's catching up to you. Also hilarious scene when her new friend, who's also a fan of her, she likes the novels she writes. Janice Hatch, uh, played by Suzanne Severid. Um, she talks about she used to be a nun, and then she knows she like she then pulls out a huge ass pristine photo of herself and another nun out of her purse. Like it's maybe bigger than that. The photo she has in her purse, it's hilarious. Unless everybody out there does that, I know my wife doesn't do that, so I just thought that was really funny. And then the nun that Windsor is seeing is the other nun in the photo as well. Now, Dr. Coombs, played by Dennis Folbig, Folbiga. Um, I didn't care for his performance either. He's really trying to bring out his inner Patrick McNee in this role and doesn't work very well. And then literally compares a wolf to a raccoon. It wasn't a wolf you heard, it must have been a raccoon. Um, Man, the raccoons in California must be pretty darn scary because they are not really. I would never compare the two at all. As well, I did become tired of the character, like what happens to Marie's character. No one believes her pretty much through the whole movie. Um, and she's just seeing things or hearing things, or she's mentally unstable, what have you. And then near the end of the film, Richard, she tells him that she shot a wolf outside the cabin. Richard then becomes rather angry and gives her a very unbelieving look on his face. I mean, come on, a wolf here in California? Come on. Wow, that didn't work at all. Um, One thing I did find kind of interesting, though, is at the end of the film, it even turns biblical, which is not expected. That I don't think that's really happened um, in the Howling series that I can think of so far, or to this extent, anyways, as the devil is using man as a place to habitat demons, also known as werewolves. I thought that was interesting, a different turn. That was good. I didn't hate this. I thought it was a fresh idea. Um, and certainly after seeing it all started with Howling 2, I'm okay with trying something different, something fresh. To some people, Howling 3 was a disaster. I warmed up to it. I thought it was okay. That's one I would recommend to some people. Um, but I'm ready for something new in each of the Howling movies, really. But I did like that. Um, Now, right at the end of the movie, um, Marie burns all the werewolves in the what was it, like a it was where she was directed to not go by one of the store owners, saying, "Oh, it's very dangerous in there." That wasn't the case at all. But she burns all the werewolves in that building. It's got the bell tower on it and everything like that. So they're dying by fire. But right at the end, a werewolf jumps woo, out of the fire at Marie, telling you one of two things. Either A, fire doesn't actually kill werewolves, or B, it's not quite dead yet. Uh, a, a big missed opportunity, I guess, or I wouldn't even go that far, but it's wanting a big bang for an ending. It threw it out there, and it was like, okay, whatever. It didn't work for me. But in the end, this film was very easy to have fun with, not taking it seriously. But that's not what was intended by the filmmakers or anybody working on this film, and that's too bad. Now, there is one scene I actually really enjoyed in this film. The problem is it took like an hour and 10 minutes to get there or something. Um, but it's the transformation scene of Richard. It is bonkers, kind of batshit crazy. It's off the top of my head, one of the weirdest werewolf transformation scenes I've ever seen. But it works. I thought it was yeah, absolutely totally the highlight of the film. And it may have being set up like that, like for example, the original Howling. The transformation scenes were sort of the highlight of the film as well. Um, and it was grimy, slimy, and gross. Um, and totally went where I was not expecting it to. What happens is Richard is transforming into a werewolf, but his body like melts away to bone, um, with this ooze, green, slimy, like totally not expecting that. And then he lands into a pool of water and then transforms from these bones into a werewolf from that point. From what I found, it was Steve Johnson who may have been did the effects or a supervisor of the effects. He also did effects to Ghost Story, from 1981. Pretty good movie. Leviathan and Howling 6, which I'm going to get to soon. Um, so yeah, I think he also created Slimer in the Ghostbusters as well, which is awesome. But when we talk about the werewolves and the effects of that, sadly they are subpar, and it just looks like a Goosebumps episode or something that's not very scary. Um, doesn't work all that well. They're either fake looking or not scary at all. The opposite of the transformation scene to me. I really liked that. That was the one scene that was really good, but it didn't save this from being a stinker to me. This movie, it's not worth going through all that just to watch that. Just watch the transformation scene and move on. Um, Now, there was a main song sung by Justin Hayward, who was the lead singer of the Moody Blues. It was called Something Evil, Something Dangerous. It's played over the beginning credits and the end credits. It's a very 80s song, absolutely. And it's all right. Doesn't hurt the film, but unfortunately, it's not exactly memorable either. It's just kind of there. It doesn't really jump out at me at all. Now, production of this film ran from November of 1987 through January of 1988. And that was Howling 4, the original Nightmare. And I do have a copy of it here, along with The Nurse. Haven't seen that one yet. It was from the 90s. But yeah, I got it. It's bare bones, which is okay. It's just got the film. That's it. That's okay. But there you have it. Yeah, I would not recommend this one to any horror fan or any werewolf fan out there, but we will progress. We'll keep going through the Howling series, and hopefully, I can find another one in here that I do like. Next up is Howling 5, and I remember enjoying this when I was a kid. This one, we'll see if it still stands up. But that's it, and yeah, on to the next one, and have yourself an excellent day.